Please welcome Judy Blume and Chelsea Handler.
Hi, everybody. Hi. 50-year anniversary, everybody. That's what we're here celebrating. Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Sorry.
No problem. Your
3
water's,
weeks of flu.
your water's right there. She's recovering from the flu. Okay, so let's talk about, I want to talk a little bit about your childhood, because you grew up in an environment that wasn't promoting you to go out and write about getting your period or having sex or any of those things. In fact, your mother wasn't really, why don't you tell us what your mom, she wasn't very,
She didn't talk to me about anything.
yes.
Basically. Nothing. But on the other hand, I was thinking about this recently. Nobody ever told me that sex was bad. See, nobody ever told me that. I knew I had to be a good girl, Judy. Be a good girl, Judy. But nobody ever said it was bad.
So what did being a good girl mean to you at that time?
It meant in those days, don't get pregnant.
Okay.
So don't have sex.
Okay.
Because that could ruin your life, which it did for a bunch of girls, very, very good students in my high school class. You know, that's how it was.
Yeah. And who was your promoter in your family? Like, who believed in you?
My father. My father was the one. He was the parent that I looked up to. He was the parent that I identified with most. And he was like, go for it. Shoot for the moon. But unfortunately, he died suddenly when I was 21 and he was 54. I lost him. I lost that great promoter, you know, that one that believed in me. But he was still there.
Yeah, I think sometimes when people pass away in our lives, they're sometimes even more present after the fact than they were when, you know, when they were around. In some
He would have
regards.
loved all of this. Oh my gosh, he would have loved it.
So talk to me about your creative process and how you decided to kind of tackle these subjects that, I mean, many of these books have been banned or outlawed in schools or libraries across the world. So let's talk first about how you got interested in uncovering and talking about these issues for young girls.
Well, just as the video said, I had no idea what I was doing. Absolutely none. I just had this burning, this need to do. I needed creative work. I had to find it somehow. You know, I was married when I was 21. I had 2 kids by the time I was 25. I liked all that baby stuff. I still like babies. I identify with babies. But I needed this. I was getting sick all the time. I was just losing it until I found my way with creative work. It could have been anything, but I was home, you know, and I had stories inside my head, and that's how it started.
I mean, I remember being with my best friend, Jody Saperstein, in the woods behind our house, and we would run into the woods to read forever. And we would meet there after school, and I'd read a chapter, and she'd read a chapter, like, what do we do with this information? And it was just like,
everybody has a forever story.
Yeah, and I mean, having that wave of impact over so many people, you can't know you're doing something that has that's going to be such a touchstone, I suppose, when you're doing it.
No, you don't know. Well, for me, I didn't know anything. I was really young in that I was very naive. I didn't know what I was doing, but I did it. That's the interesting thing. I mean, because I was a fearful kid. I was like my mother. In the early days, I was shy. I was fearful. But when it came to writing, somehow I became fearless. And that, of course, it changed my life.
Yeah, absolutely. It changed your life.
Yeah, it changed my life. Yeah.
Do you have a book that's closest to you out of all of the books? All of your books?
Well,
Thus far, your books that you've written so far.
So far. No, I'm done. 50 years of writing.
Well, you can say you're done, but sometimes we say we're done when we're not done.
Sorry, talk for a second.
She has a bookstore now, so she thinks she's transitioned into a different career because you've bought a bookstore, you work at the bookstore 4 days a week. But there's always a chance you could write again, even if you're not planning on writing again.
You know, you have to want to. And you have to want to lock yourself up in that little room again. My last book was Lock Up for 5 years.
Oh.
Yeah, in the unlikely event. It was the book that I was born to write. that I was meant to write. And why I didn't write it for 40 years of writing, I don't know. But when I did, it was like,
And then you felt a kind of finality towards it, towards writing.
Like I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I would say to my husband, do I have to do this anymore? And he would say, no, you don't have to do it anymore. And I just didn't want to. And how lucky for me that suddenly I had a bookstore and some reason to get up every day and be so excited and to have a new career and to be learning new things. I mean, that's what's important, is that you never stop. You're never too old to learn or start something new. And I love that. I ride my bike to the bookstore every day, and I work. I work maybe harder than I've ever worked.
Really?
Yes.
Are you cleaning the bookstore as well?
I do. You know, every single one of
would.
us at that bookstore, we dust. And I cough and sneeze because I'm allergic to book dust, but I don't stop. And it's wonderful. And I love it every single day.
What are some of the, if you can recall, some of the things that people have said to you over the years that have stuck with you with regard to reading your books and having those kind of formative experiences at that age?
Well, there's a lot of that, but what really sticks with me is the people who said you can't. You cannot do this. You cannot go from writing books for young readers to writing books for adult readers, especially sexy books. You cannot do this. It will ruin your career. You have to use a pseudonym. And I don't know why, but I said to myself, no, I have to do this. I want to do this. And so I would go back and forth between writing for kids and writing for adults. And that's another thing. I mean, you can't let people tell you no. I'm a rebel that way. I never would have guessed that I would have been when I look back at my childhood, but I am.
Well, I think you said something that I found really powerful, that determination is as important as talent.
It is. You can have talent. It's wonderful to have talent. But all the talent in the world isn't going to get you there unless you also have that determination. And you know, I went into the closet and cried. Rejection is hard. It's always hard. And I cried for the first time I was rejected. I think I said that in the video. And then it's like, no, maybe that one wasn't any good, but wait till they see the next one. So you just have to go on. You
have to persevere. I mean, I think the idea of rejection is so powerful because we've all been rejected, and it doesn't matter how many times you are rejected. It just matters that somebody says yes, and that somebody allows your dream to go forward.
Yes, I was rejected again when I was writing Summer Sisters. I mean, all those years into my career, and this book became, #1 bestseller, but along the way, I was rejected by publishers that I knew that had published me. They didn't see it. They didn't see the possibilities. And that was really, really hard. That was a very painful time.
How did you handle rejection?
Then?
Yeah.
I didn't go into the closet and cry, but I did cry. I mean, it was very tough. But I think rejection always gets me more determined. Yes, I can. Yes, I will. Maybe it will work and maybe it won't, but you're not going to stop me. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, it's a definite character builder, and I think nobody would dispute that, saying they've learned from their rejections. It's just hard in the moment when you are rejected to be like, this is great.
But it's hard. It's hard, and I know a wonderful writer who will not write again because of such rejection.
So now some of these books are set up as TV shows or films right now, and that's part of the reason why you're in LA in addition to being at this conference. So tell us about that.
Well, Margaret's going to be the first one. Margaret's going to be a book. A movie. She is a book. She's going to be a movie. I don't know, is it going to work? Is it going to please you? I have no idea. But it's exciting, and I think after 50 years, I was ready to let go.
Are there any character traits of Margaret's that are yours that you put into her?
Of course. I mean, I was that little skinny late developer. The religious part, which we had talked about, that's fiction. which is interesting.
Yeah, that's one of the things I resonated with me because I grew up as a Jew and Mormon. My mom was Mormon and my dad was Jewish, so we had to choose, and I chose Jewish, obviously, just because Mormonism is so ridiculous. But I related to that kind of, conflict of religion in the book. At that time, I was like, I just found out my mom was Mormon on top of thinking she was Jewish, so it was a very confusing time. But your books were just such a reprieve for me and such a joy.
Yeah, and I talked to God. I mean, I had a relationship with God that had nothing to do with organized religion, but he was my confidant, or maybe she, but then I thought he.
Right, and do you still talk to God?
Not so much.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think now all of our ideas of God and spirituality are changing so much, and that especially people in this city probably have a more strong...
But I needed it. I needed it. I needed to have that feeling, that I had somebody that I could talk to about these.
Yeah, I think most
somebody
people...
who wasn't judgmental.
Right.
I made bargains.
What kind of bargains?
Oh, I made a lot of bargains with God. I was young,
Yeah.
In the beginning, it was to keep my father safe. And because I was separated from him for a couple of years when we lived in Miami Beach, and it's a long story. It's in Sally J. Friedman, my most autobiographical book. Mm-hmm. But so I had to make bargains, like I will do this. It's a terrible burden for a 9-year-old or 10-year-old child to feel that it's up to her to keep her father safe and healthy. But I thought that that was the only way I could do it.
That it was your responsibility.
It was my responsibility, and it worked for a while.
And how do you feel about your own children when they read your books?
How do I feel about it?
Well, how did you present it to them?
It was fun. I mean, my daughter was, she was a big reader. Excuse me, the flu is coming out my nose now. And she would come home, and then it was a typewriter, and she would take the pages right out of the typewriter and read them. She was very excited about it. But of course they read my books. They grew up reading my books. It was just that's the way it was.
And all their friends were probably
Mom
reading
was
your
home
books too.
Writing books.
Yeah.
I don't think they ever thought about me as a working parent. If I were doing it again, I would make sure that they knew, the struggle, because I think then I didn't want them to. I didn't want them to think about it that way.
Yeah, yeah.
I was the only woman on this cul-de-sac of 30 houses in the suburbs of New Jersey who was working. So, we didn't even think about it that way. It's like my then husband thought, oh, isn't that nice? Give Judy some paper and pencils and she's happy.
Give her some paper and pencils and she'll whip up a strudel.
I'm not married to him anymore.
Exactly. Well, before we go, I want to say that tomorrow is another momentous day for you because you turn 82 years old, so we would like to celebrate that.
I do.
We would like to celebrate that by wishing you a happy birthday. If everybody could sing along and wish Judy a happy birthday, we would love that.
Oh my God.
Ready? Oh, go ahead, no problem.
Oh, cake. I love cake. That's beautiful. Can we see?
Okay, ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Judy. Happy birthday to you.
Oh, thank you, dear. Thank you, everyone. What a lovely birthday surprise. This is great. Thank you. And it's beautiful.
You have to make a wish and blow it out the candle. It's just one candle. You can do it.
I can do it. Yes, I can do it.
If you need help, I'll back you up. Yay! Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy Blume. Congratulations and happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you so much.